All right, let's get started with the 2021 Quill on All the Fish games tier list. These are all the games in 2021 that I played. I've kept track of them. There are 38 of them, and I'm going to rank all 38 and talk about why I placed them where they are. Let me also pull up this thing. I have a thing open. Uh, some of the games I remember a little less, but I rated them throughout the year. So I'll have a little bit more to say about them as I go. 20XX, if you don't know what it is, that is a Mega Man roguelike. What's up, Shish? Glad to have you here. Um, it's Mega Man style game, except it's a roguelike, so you have a lot of randomized levels and elements. I'm gonna put it in A tier. It definitely was a really fun game. I enjoyed it a lot. I stopped playing because I just didn't have time at the time, and then never came back to it. But it's definitely good. I know 30XX just came out, which is the sequel, and it's on my wish list. I'll probably buy it sometime soon. But very good game. The thing holding it back from being S tier is that when you are progressing in the game, there's a lot of you pick up like upgrades, but the variation to the upgrades isn't massive. I would have liked to seen a little more variation to it. A Hat in Time. This game is an S tier game for me. I really love A Hat in Time. I think it's just like a really good 3D platformer. I really like all of the characters, all of the levels are really well done. I just generally really like that game. I also got the DLC this playthrough. This was the first time I played the DLC was this year because I played this game before. Some of these games I've played before this year, and then I replayed them this year. The only ones I'm not including for that are like Chameleon Twist, which I've played a lot of times. So, um, my biggest issue with it was the Seal the Deal DLC, or sorry, no, the Seal the Deal DLC, the deal part. All of those like bonus missions are just insanely hard, and there's an occasional like glitchy platforming moment within a Hat in Time. So I think having that glitchy platforming and a very hard challenge, it's just too much debate or too much problem there. Uh, that's my only issue with the game. Otherwise, I just really enjoy that whole game. Astro's Playroom. I know it's just the tech demo for the PS5, but it's really fun. I really enjoyed this game. I know it's stupid, but I did really enjoy it. It shows off a lot of features of the PS5 controller. It also has generally just good 3D platforming. It's just a fun game to play. I'm glad PlayStation went out of their way to make it. And then it has a lot of Easter eggs for all of the uh, stuff that you can find in it. A lot of PlayStation like memorabilia you can find in it. So one thing holding it back, I think, would be the the motion controls being required. I would have liked to seen a version of the game without motion controls. And I think I'm going to actually do a little shift down. I think I want to put these games one tier lower because I think there's going to be something in S tier that won't be Game of the Year. I'll pick Game of the Year at the end out of the S tiers, but I think this is more accurate. Uh, Biped. So Biped is a co-op only. Well, it's not co-op only. I don't know how it's possible and not co-op, but it's like a physics puzzle platformer, and I played it with my wife, and we had a good time with it. But it had some glitchiness, and sometimes we cheesed puzzles because they were just like too hard to coordinate, and I don't know. Just overall, it wasn't the best game. We had no. Once we beat it, we were like, okay, cool. I'm glad that's done. So now we don't have to go back and play it more. So I think I'm gonna put that in C tier. Uh, Bloons Tower Defense 6. That game, I spent way too long on it. There's a few of these games, by the way, that I started in 2020. Biped is one of them. 20XX is one of them. Bloons Tower Defense is one of them. There's a couple more. We'll get to them when I get to them. But I definitely played them into 2021. So I want to go ahead and include them on this list. And then for next year, I won't include the ones that I started now and didn't finish yet on that list, because I'll just put them here. But Bloons Tower Defense 6, very well made tower defense game. I very much enjoyed it a lot. The co-op is fun. I think you could like boost co-op a little bit somehow to make it like more enjoyable, even if it's less balanced, and then maybe not count co-op towards like achievements or something. But overall, Bloons Tower Defense 6, extremely good game. I think some of the stuff just gets a little too frustratingly hard, because when you start at the beginning levels and do the challenges in the beginner level levels, you can pretty much use whatever you want. You just have to come up with a creative way to do it. As you move on in the game and you get to the harder levels, it's like if you don't build your build in one specific way, which you have to trial and error to figure out, you will not be able to clear this. And I don't like that part as much. So that one's going to be an A tier for me as well. Bowser's Fury. This game was very fun. I liked it a lot. I liked it. Was a little bonus to Mario 3D World's re-release, and I'm glad they put it there. It had some problems though. I liked that it was an open world 3D platformer, but it was a little too small, and for being so small, it never mixed it up. Like everywhere you went, there was Bowser unlocks this block, and you have to wait for it. You can't activate that at any time. You have to leave the area to do the next shine there. There's always a red coin shine. It also had 3D worlds movement, which doesn't work as well in an open world type environment. So, I think overall it was a fun game, but it was very repetitive, and there was no coat of paint over anything to make it feel different either. It all just looked like game blocks. They weren't, this is a forest, this is a water level, this is an ice level, this is a desert. It was all one big giant game blocks build. So for that, I'll put it in B tier. Bug Snacks. This game was so much fun. I enjoyed playing Bug Snacks so much. I speedran it for a little bit. I didn't like the speedrun very much, but I did like that there was a few glitches that you can abuse there. I really need to go back and play the DLC for it. But the world building and the fun that I had with that game was really, really good. Some of it was a little tedious. Maybe I did it wrong, but the volcano Bug Snacks were pretty bad. I really liked how funny it was. And the one other thing I think was bad about it was there wasn't a lot of diversity in the bugs, it seemed like sometimes. And by that I mean they just reused the same type of bug and made it a different color or something to be in a different area. Like, there was two types of bungers, because they just threw one bunger one place and one bunger in another. None of the other ones are coming to mind right now, but they do exist. Oh, the Strawby. Strawby had a Strawby and a white Strawby. Like, they're the same thing. And a Raspy. And I think there might have been a black Raspy. They were all the same bug. So, for that, A tier. Clawfish. I think I haven't talked to you guys about Clawfish at all. Um, I think that Clawfish is a very fun game, and uh, what it is a game where you go on a train, you arrive at a dock, it's somewhere from your childhood. There's a bunch of claw machines with fish in them, and you free the fish from the claw machines by catching them in the claw machines. And it's an extremely short game. I 100%ed the game in an hour, and it was $3 on Steam. I recommend it. I just really, really enjoyed it. One of the problems with it is the game can break. It can just, like, I don't know, you get like coins out of this machine so you can put them in the claw machines. But if you click the coins too early before it finishes dispensing them and going through that animation, it just forgets what to do, and you can no longer interact with anything. And there's no saving in the game, so you the game just becomes soft locked there. So you make sure you've grabbed the coins after they all fell. So for that, because it can soft lock like that, but it also is so short. I don't know. I'm stuck between A and B here. It's very close between A and B for how much I enjoyed them. But I think I'll put it in B just because it's a little too short and a little too buggy. And now, it's time for a special announcement. I'm going to be learning the Clawfish speedrun, which I'm going to have to route myself and do myself. And I'll probably be doing it on days where I finish a speedrun early, or I'm done with it, and we'll just work on that. The major contributing factor as to why I'm learning Clawfish is because speed docs, aka the people that run SDAT, the marathon I ran in, aka the people running Jerry's Aid, I think it's Jerry's Aid, which is a marathon that we're running, that myself and Popcorn Parfait are running Community Twist 2 in on January 9th, aka the people that did a podcast with me interviewing about my speedrun life. Check that out if you haven't yet. They're hosting a marathon called Speed Docs-a-thon with a K, where it's all fishing games, doing speedruns of fishing games. So when they announced that they were doing that, which there's no date for it yet, it was just a donation incentive for SDAT 2021, I immediately went to find a fishing game, and this is the one I landed on. So as of right now, there's no speedrun.com page. I'm probably going to do a run very soon so that I can submit it and get a speedrun.com page created for it. But yeah, that's the plan. I'm gonna play that game. All right. Moving on. Frogger 2. Frogger 2 was a pretty fun game. There was a lot of, funnily enough, it was one of the, I think I had the highest average viewer count of any category that I've streamed on from Frogger, because I got rated during it. Really funny. But it was a fun game. I don't think it was necessarily my type of game, but it's a good reimagining of the original Frogger's mechanics into a single player, like, finishable game. And I liked the game. However, I don't think it's as good as something like A Hat in Time. I never got I never felt like this game is really good when I'm playing Frogger 2. I just felt like, yeah, this is fun. I'm enjoying this. So for that, I'm going to put it in B tier. Horizon Zero Dawn. I finished the tutorial section area of this game and got a little bit further than that. And then I stopped. The game's learning curve and difficulty curve is just way too high from that. And I didn't like that a lot of the game was going through a menu and just optimizing your build, and to then having to do trap-based gameplay. It's really just not my type of game. So I didn't really enjoy Horizon. I think it was a Game of the Year contender in the year it came out. and people are really excited for Forbidden West. But for me, it's a D tier. You hate to see it. I'm glad you guys liked the podcast. You mostly liked it for its story. Yeah, I didn't get into the story. It's hard for me to get into stories sometimes because when I'm playing a game not on stream, it's generally in the living room with my wife there and the dog's out, and I play it in over broken segments because we don't have the time to just constantly play a game every day or anything. So I just never got into it. Really, it's just not for me. Alright, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. This is another one I started in 2020. However, DLC came out for it this year. I played both the DLCs. And the combination of the DLCs and their base game makes it a very, very good game for me. I loved this game. The Koroks were really annoying to find, and the DLC didn't add what I wanted it to. The biggest issue with this game is the reward system. It's the same issue with Breath of the Wild. There is no major reward for clearing things. Like, when you beat extra levels, you might be able to unlock a stronger ability or something, but there's no, like, fun rewards. You never get, like, a costume. The costumes in that game are really bad compared to the original Hyrule Warriors. The original Hyrule Warriors is like a 9.8 out of 10 for me, so it's hard to compare it to that. But Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, extremely good for when we were playing it. I really liked the Divine Beast battles. I thought those were really fun and not overplayed. If they had been more than what they were, then I think I wouldn't have liked it. But I think it was a very fun game, and it was pretty balanced in terms of the cast. You just had to get good with whoever you played, and we've only played Rivali and Impa when I played with Architect. But yeah, this is the first game in S tier. Okay, It Takes Two, the Game of the Year winner for the Game Awards. My wife and I had just finished this game 2 nights ago. And let me tell you, it was an amazing game. I really enjoyed the platforming in it. I enjoyed the puzzles. The every like chapter had a new mechanic, and you like lost your old and gained the new one. And excuse me, it makes sense in the like context of what you're doing. But like every single one of them was completely intuitive as to what you needed to do with it. And I don't think there was ever a time where we got stuck and when we figured out the solution, we were like, Every time it was like, oh, we were just being dumb. Got it. But yeah, this game was very fun. Had an amazing story, which is not something that I say very often. It wasn't like super duper amazing. There's two problems with the game. The first problem is you're not rewarded for exploring very much. You get some mini games and you get to see the world, but there's no like collect 100 of these things in this level and you unlock a costume. There's no bonus levels that you can happen to stumble into if you climb around the right way or something. None of that. And the other thing about it is it kind of, and this one's a little bit of a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear about the kind of the end of the story, not actually what happens at the end of the story, but things that are occurring at the end of the story from a meta level, you should mute. And I'll give you a thumbs up when I'm done. So at the end of It Takes Two, it kind of ends abruptly. When we finished it, we were like, oh, that was it? Because there's no final boss. Every other level had a boss to it, but then the final level just didn't. And then it seems like you're getting... it felt like you were building up to one final level, and that wasn't it. It seemed like this was the last piece before you got to the final level. And I don't know if that was like a cut to the time that they had to work on it, or if it was intended to be like this, but it felt like there was one piece missing from it. However, uh, the game was good enough, even despite that, to still take an S rank from me. It'll do too! This was a fun little game. It's a basic beginner 2D Zelda. It has the items and the puzzles and I'm looking at my notes here. There wasn't anything special about it, but it was fun. There was I finished it in 5 hours. One of the worst parts about it, when you are playing the game, I played it on Switch. I have my Switch right here. This doesn't have any notches. However, the game does not have cardinal directions only for aiming. And you would have to shoot a ball through a one-tile gap. And it was just very difficult because there was no way to aim properly. The D-pad does not work. I don't think. I'm pretty sure the D-pad was reserved for another attribute of the game. But it was a fun game. I still enjoyed it. I wouldn't say that it was like unenjoyable to play or anything. So I'd still say it's B tier. Kena Bridge of Spirits is a lot of people's game of the year. I have not finished it yet. And I feel like finishing it could up my rating of it. Because right now I have it in A tier. I feel like the gameplay is really good. I don't know. There's a lot that I really like about the game. I think it's going to depend on how it ends in order for me to move it up to S. But it very easily could move up to S. The fights are legitimately difficult. I'm playing on hard difficulty, but not the extra hard difficulty you unlock for beating hard. So they're a little hard, but I'm enjoying it regardless. But yeah, I'll let you guys know if I change my mind on this and move it up to S. Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. It's hard to say where to put this exactly. I definitely enjoyed it. Going for the platinum is not fun. Because you just need to get a certain number of enemy kills. And when I was getting the certain number of enemy kills, it just took hours of me grinding one song. Because I had done literally everything else. Like I think there's a 50,000 achievement and a 100,000 achievement. I finished every other trophy in the game before getting 50,000 kills. So, I had to play like twice the time to get that. I wrote in my notes that some of the songs didn't seem to line up right, and maybe that's just me not being rhythmically inclined. I also thought that the boss songs were really good, but there needed to be more because there's only 4 of them in the main game. And then memory dives, which is a type of the songs that you can do. There's either boss memory dives or field battle. Memory dives were not as good as field battles. And I didn't think there was enough Kingdom Hearts 3 songs. I liked the Kingdom Hearts 3 music, and they just didn't include very much of it. So, other than that, the gameplay is fun. It's a rhythm game, and I enjoyed that. So I'd put it in B tier. Kirby's Epic Yarn. You're going to notice there's a lot of things in B tier. Kirby's Epic Yarn. Fun game. I played it with my wife. The controls are not very tight. Playing in co-op, you can hit each other, and that gets really annoying because you're both trying to be in a platform made for one person, and then it just doesn't work because you have 2 people and they're hitting each other. You can't like intersect people. And then it has motion controls because it was a Wii game, and that wasn't great. But overall, it was a pretty fun game. We enjoyed our time with it, but we didn't go back to 100% it, which generally means it's about a B tier for us. M&M's The Lost Formulas. This is one of the games that we played as a 3D pick-a-platformer choice. Viv, I believe you requested that, right? Oof, this game was rough. Level 1 and 7, I think. Bunko requested it. Why did Bunko request the worst stuff? Levels 1 and 7 were driving levels, and they were rough. Driving levels in that game, they were really long, the checkpoints weren't great. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, that would make sense too, Viv. I think that was like the PC game sale thing that I did. I don't think you can, Baby Devil. I wrote that level 3 and level 8 were awful, especially level 8 because it wasn't finished. I remember specifically struggling because the camera didn't pan to me, and I just couldn't see for a section of the gameplay. The other levels were pretty good. Like, good length, good difficulty. Depth perception was really bad throughout the whole game. I don't think there was a shadow on the ground for your character, so it was really hard to tell what you were over. And also, it was a blatant Crash ripoff. It literally had the same controls as Crash. So, the whole time I just thought, well, I could be playing Crash instead. So, this game is a C tier for me. MacBat 64 was a super fun game. I loved this game. That's an S tier game for me. It only took an hour to play the whole thing, but it had so much funny dialogue, and I felt like I was playing a N64 game for the first time. In a game that I hadn't played before, playing it for the first time, and like a well-made one too. Just a really good experience with MacBat. Really loved that one. Lots of references to a lot of things were in MacBat 64. Madagascar 2, I'm going to start with 2 and then go to 3, even though they're in the other order on the screen. Madagascar 2 was the worst game that I had ever played on stream. That game sucked. There was no rhyme or reason to anything you were doing. It did not follow the script of the movie. I missed so much. There was a whole key point of the movie that I skipped. And I think it might have existed, but I skipped it. This game was garbage. D tier. Madagascar 3 was a little bit better. It had just a little edge better. The levels were actually pretty decently fun. Running around and collecting things and trying to solve the little puzzles throughout the levels, not a bad thing. I think the problem is it was extremely repetitive. The circus section at the end was fun exactly one time. I think you had to do it 5 times? Yeah, I wrote that the circus portion was 5 times. The minigame auto-scrollers were awful. The regular missions were the only good thing. Also, it was fun doing sequence breaks with Alex. That was a good time. But they did feel too samey by the end. But I'll put this one in C tier because it definitely is a huge step up from Madagascar 2. Mail Mole was fun. I enjoyed this game. I thought it was a very interesting concept to change up how you control a 3D platformer, because you have to hold the jump button and then release it to get a jump. So you just tap it to get a small jump, but you hold and release to get a big jump. The hop do speed tech was really fun to do for the speed runs and stuff. I liked the boss fights in Mail Mole. They were all based on platforming instead of like trying to wait for the guy's cycle to end, and then you just step on his back, and then you run away, and then he shoots some lasers, and then he does another attack, and then he bends over to attack you, and you step on his back, over and over and over. This was just a platforming challenge, and the boss was... It could have been just a cannon. It could have been whatever. But they made it a character. That was rough. They made it a character so that it could be versatile and encourage you to beat it more. Biggest issue I found was that the game was very samey throughout. Like there was very few altered mechanics throughout the levels. But that's okay because of its length. It wasn't very complex movement after you figured out the hop news, and that's okay too. But overall, I think I'm gonna put this game. Hello, what did I just do? This goes here. Yeah. Where did mail go? There it is. I think I'm gonna put this one in B tier. It's close to A, but it's just one little hint below. And I think that's just like a personal preference. I don't think the game is necessarily worse, but I think this personally is just B for me. Mario Picross. I don't even know what to say about this game. It's just a pencil paper puzzle game of Picross, and there's just a ton of levels. But there's nothing wrong with it, so I'm just gonna put it in B tier. New Pokemon Snap. I don't have any notes for this one yet because I haven't written them down. I didn't know what to say about it. It's really hard to gauge where I put New Pokemon Snap. I enjoyed the initial playthrough a lot. I enjoyed discovering new Pokemon for a while. But I felt like finding every Pokemon was too cryptic and the game did not give you enough tracking of your data for you to do it well. And I think the most disappointing thing about it is that I wanted it to be really good. I think it might be like an A tier game, but I'm going to put it in B tier. Simply because I was more disappointed by it for how much I enjoyed what it did. I really liked that there was different star ratings of all the Pokemon, and that you could get a platinum on each one, but I wanted a little bit more clue of how to do it. It felt too obscure and too specific. Pikmin 3 Deluxe. This is just Pikmin 3, and I really like Pikmin 3. And the Olimar missions added a lot to the game. I really liked doing the Olimar missions that were added to this. So I'm going to put that in A tier. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond. Haven't finished it yet. The game has the potential to move up still. However, I hate to admit this, I think there's a lot wrong with it. Pokemon Gen 4 has always been a top generation for me. So I don't like saying that something's wrong with it. But I think there is a major problem of when you are playing through the game, the level curve of the Pokemon does not match what yours is. So you don't level up adequately when it shifts to be too high for you. And I think that's going to happen with the Elite Four. I haven't finished that part yet. I think that the variety of Pokemon that are in the wild, not in the underground, Pokemon that trainers are using, is not high enough of variety. I don't think they had enough Pokemon in the regional decks for it. I think they should have increased that. And one of the biggest flaws is one of my least favorite things about Pokemon as a series. Getting Pokemon to evolve being a convoluted method, especially involving another person via trade. I really hate that. And this game has a lot of trade evolutions in it. And a lot of them are hold an item and trade it. It also has a lot of stone evolutions. Those are harder to figure out. But with the new mechanics of the game, it's a little easier. Friendship stuff I don't mind as much, because that's basically just a level up requirement that is set to have you used this Pokemon enough. But then there's things like Mamoswine. Oh, yeah, Viv, I'll get to that. Mamoswine, you have to have it have ancient power. And to do that, you have to find a heart scale in the underground and go back to teach Piloswine ancient power because you can't get it any other way. So then you just... Basically, if you're not looking up how to do it, you're not going to figure it out. That's the big problem with that. Baby Devil, you're right. I spent hours looking for an electrolyzer so I could use an Electivire on my in-game team. Because the only place you can get them in the entire game is a 5% chance on a rare spawn of Elekid with a 15% chance of it being in that rare spawn. So it's very hard to get it. So yeah, I think that might have moved Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, Platinum out of my top favorite Pokemon games. For Brilliant Diamond and Pearl being true faithful remakes, I can just assume that it can retroactively apply to the other games without the EXP share. Oh, in the friendship stuff Viv said in the chat, if you have friendship with a Pokemon, then every single turn it just stops to talk to you for a second, and then it also gives you too much of a gameplay advantage, and I did not like that. I think all that stuff combined, I'm still going to put this in B tier, because I just really like the region, and the trainers, and the gym leaders, and the dialogue, and the story, and the Pokemon that were introduced in Gen 4, especially the evolutions to previously made Pokemon, like Magmortar and Electivire. Really like all those guys. So, I don't want to rank it too low, because I do like a lot of things about the game. But since I've been playing this game recently, I have a bigger notice of what's wrong with it. Ratchet and Clank 1. This game was pretty fun. The architect recommended I play it. Requested I play it. There were a lot of things wrong with it, like you didn't get your ammo back after dying. And then you'd be out of ammo, and then you'd have to go farm for money so you get more ammo. The weapons to hit airborne enemies were extremely limited. The final boss was just too long. It was not fun to fight that guy over and over and over, because he's really hard too. And there also wasn't a ton of platforming in it. I wish there was some more platforming. I also wrote that the minigames broke the pace too much and weren't super fun. I don't remember what the minigames were. So they must have not stuck out to me very much. But we'll put that in C tier, because that's where I think it belongs. Shift Happens. This game is a co-op game that my wife and I played together. The main mechanic of it is you can hit a button and it will make one person be the big guy and one person be the small guy. So there's a bunch of physics puzzles based on using the weight and shifting mid-air, which doesn't change your momentum. Well, it changes your momentum, it doesn't change your speed. So it was pretty fun, but it was nothing special, and the game was pretty glitchy. So I'm gonna put it in C tier. Spyro Enter the Dragonfly. Poor Kitsune requested this game because she said it was a childhood game. She enjoyed it a lot. And when I played it, it started fun. And then it just got really glitchy, super laggy. The endgame bonus areas were not fun, and they were excruciating. The final boss was awful. You couldn't see him, but you still had to dodge him. I wrote that I glitched myself out of being able to 100% the game. I don't think that's true. I think I misread something with that. But either way, this game was not fun. It was just glitchy and awful. However, if you want to go watch me suffer through it, it's on YouTube. Super Mario 3D World. I don't like that the game is limited to 8 directions with things like the fireball and boomerang. In order to truly 100% the game, you need to beat every stage with every character. I don't like that that's a requirement. I think that you should be able to get everything with whichever character you want and have the character thing not count. Champions Road is not good. I think it's poorly designed. There's a lot of things that are there to just be like, gotcha. I 100%ed 3D World for the first time, and I did it in co-op with my wife. Taking a lot of drinks because my throat's starting to hurt. But overall, a lot of the levels are super fun. It's a linear 3D platformer, and you guys know I like those. So I think I'm going to put this in B tier. Super Mario Galaxy. This is, I think, the 3rd or 4th time that I've played through Mario Galaxy, and I just any percented this time. I noticed this time a lot of the flaws of the game. It had a lot of seemingly a glitchy movement where you kind of got stuck to a planetoid and you couldn't move the correct direction because it didn't know which way you were trying to hold. The difficulty often came from length instead of being skilled at the game. There's not enough movement in the game to warrant the open world levels, like the freeze flame level or whatever. There's a few levels that are just like open exploration, but they just don't work with the controls that Mario Galaxy has very well. I don't like the in-betweens of stars. You get a star, it plays a cutscene. Then you go out to go to the Odyssey, and it plays a cutscene. Then it opens a menu for you to save. And then you go back into a level, or you go back into the menu to pick a level, and it plays a little cutscene. Then you pick a level and it pops up. Then you hit OK, and then it pops up all the stars. Then you hit that star, and then it plays a cutscene, and then you're in the level. It's like a minute or 2 per star. I just wanted to continue playing the game, but I couldn't because there's so many cutscenes. I wrote that the first 2 worlds have too many bosses, and I think that's completely true. I think there were like 10 bosses in 2 worlds. The intro I wrote is pretty long, which I don't like. Oh, and shaking the spin is also garbage. You should have never had to do that. B would have been fine. Shooting starbits is not a required mechanic. Just remove the pointer system, it's garbage. But what I like about it is that the graphics and worlds are really fun, or like really cool. The linear levels are really fun to run through because you can just like tackle it with your limited mobility in one way. When you're not on a little tiny planet, moving around is still fun. Spin is really good except for it being tied to motion controls. I still enjoyed the game a lot, I'd say. But I think I'm going to put it in C tier. I don't think it's as good as 3D World. Super Sammy Roll S tier. This game is fantastic. I love Super Sammy Roll. Every time you make a mistake, it's your fault. Every time you die, it's your fault. There's not a single problem with Sammy Roll. Well, there is problems with Sammy Roll, but there's not like a... Nothing is frustrating. You have the ability to choose your difficulty, so you can fight against the timer, you can fight against checkpoints if you want to. Everything is super skill-based, and I love that. I love the mechanics. I love that it's momentum-based like Monkey Ball. I love that there's the whole tongue mechanic. Super duper good. Let me look at my notes. By the way, it's only a $15 game. Go buy Super Samurai and play it. It's very difficult. As a 3D platformer, it's one of the most difficult 3D platforms I've played. Easy to learn, hard to master, something I wrote. I wrote almost every level is enjoyable. There's a couple levels that weren't super great. There's a couple times that the game feels a little glitchy. Sometimes you just can't get a wall jump even if you're touching a wall. Not sure why. When you land, you do like a little bounce because you like landed and a little bounce up, you know, like a little elasticity, like a real thing would do. That prevents you from jumping even though you're that far off the ground. So I don't like that. I think you should be able to buffer the jump there. I also don't like that the edges can give a massive speed boost if you ground pound on them. I wish that it just didn't have that mechanic. It's really interesting because you can do speedruns with that, and you can like get really, really good times because of it. But they're just so precise that it's not fun. But everything other than those two little things, Samurai does really, really well. Tetris Effect Connected is a fun game. It has the connected mode is modern Tetris, or the journey mode is modern Tetris with some nice backgrounds. It's a very just chill game. And then it has the connected aspect, which you get to play with other people and against other people. But I didn't feel like this was like a full game or something. I don't know. Something felt off about it. I never felt like it was really cool. It was just still Tetris. And I don't like modern Tetris as much because I think it's the focus is being fast instead of being correct. So I think overall I'm going to put Tetris Effect Connected in C tier. The original NES Tetris, I've watched this game for years, and for the first time I got into playing it to try to get a high score. My current PB is 350 some thousand. I think 354. And it's a good game. I like that it's all RNG based. It's another competitive game, and it has another set of competitive rules. And I think that because of how simple it is, like with modern Tetris and Tetris Effect Connected, there's so many extra points with T-spins, and there's so many moves that you can't do in original Tetris because they don't make sense. Like, you can clip blocks through other blocks in modern Tetris, and I don't like that as much. So for original Tetris, I'm going to put it in B tier. I don't think the original Tetris offers that much, but it definitely has an extremely high skill ceiling. I don't like that the optimal way to play is not by holding the D-pad, and you just have to tap the button really fast. I can't do it, and I certainly don't want to learn how to do it really well and spend a ton of time doing that. I just want to play it for fun. So I'm just playing with the DAS method, and I don't like that I have to be unoptimal in order to have fun the way I want to have fun with it. For that specifically. I understand I have to stack correctly in order to score well, but I don't like that one control scheme is better than another. The Incredibles, also known as the Incredibly Bad Game. This is the worst game I've ever played, and I'm not even going to treat it like the Game of the Year where I put it in D tier and then at the end I'm like, oh, I'm going to put it in anti-game of the year because it's the worst. No, The Incredibles just was awful. It was glitchy. The level, there was one level that was fun. It was the Monkey Ball level. Every other level was garbage. The only reason that I was able to beat it sanely was because of the cheat system. You can enter cheats to do things, like have extra power or health or whatever. Not a single part of the game outside of there was a level where the Dash and Violet team up and are a ball and moving around. That's the only like enjoyable level, and it wasn't even that good. The Dash sections were just Sonic, which are 1 out of 10. Like the mock sections in Sonic, that's some of the worst gameplay I've ever seen in my life. Garbage design. Oh, okay. Sorry. Done now. What's going on, Shin? How you doing? Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. I was looking forward to playing this game because it gets such highly praised. I do not like The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. I think there are too many things that are too cryptic, such as the hookshot point to get to Dark World Dungeon 3 is literally 1 point across the river in, I think it's in the Light World. Might be in the Dark World, I can't remember. I think that's just too cryptic. I think you need better hints or more accessibility to it. Playing the flute at the Weather Vane for Dark World Dungeon 6 being a required thing. Why? Why is that there? That's just too... we literally had to look it up. I didn't want to spend all day looking for it. Oh, some of the items seem completely unrequired until the end of the game. That's annoying. Like the silver bow, silver arrows. Why is that so hidden? I wrote that the later dungeons enemy rooms were terrible. I'll stick to it even though I don't know what I was talking about. And there were some places that there were just invisible paths that you had to figure out what was across them. So overall, I think I put this in C tier. Because it definitely had a lot of good elements to it. Like when you were playing the game and you got through dungeons 1 through 5, really, I had a great time. There's a lot of skill in the game. There's a lot of puzzle solving. Very good time. Then you just get to some of the cryptic stuff in some of the later areas, and it's just not good. Okay, Tori 3D. This game was very cute, very short, and I really liked it. Shin, you play randomizers in the Link to the Past, don't you? Yeah. Vanilla Link to the Past is pretty rough for me. Anyways, Tori 3D. Very cute, very fun. Linear 3D platforming. I think that it just didn't do enough for me outside of the levels were just kind of like fun to rush through and that's it. The truck levels are not that good. I don't like them that much, but the other levels are completely fine. Except for when you're trying to go for S ranks. This is, I think, exclusive to the PC version of the game, this problem. If you try to go for S ranks and your computer is not a toaster, then the wind will be too... The wind is based on the frame rate of the game. So, if you have too good of a computer, you cannot get the S ranks. It's just not possible. The strategies that are meant to be done are not possible. So, for that, for the truck and that, I think this game is going to be a B tier for me. I also would like to see more game from it, and I'm excited to play Tori 2 because I think that a lot of the issues are going to be fixed. Alright, Yooka-Laylee. I know Baby Devil's excited to hear my opinion on Yooka-Laylee because he put it as one of his top 5 games of the year, I think. And we're almost done here, guys. I know I've taken a while through this tier list. So I've 100%ed Yooka-Laylee before, and I had a lot of biased when I played it the first time because I was really looking forward to it. I love the levels. I love the moveset progression over time. There's a lot you can choose not to get if you're just doing an 8% playthrough. I liked that it was 100 pages for the final boss entry. I wrote that they learned from Banjo that to not require so many quills for progression. Meaning, there was a lot of moves that you had to get in Ukulele, and you need quills for them. But in Banjo, requiring, I think it was 810 out of 900 notes in order to get to the final boss. And that's just too many. They figured out not to do that. The biggest issues for the game that I wrote. The final boss is very long with no checkpoints. That boss should have had checkpoints. It is not that fun. Especially not that fun to redo, because you cannot speed it up by being better at it. There's a lot of waiting for the boss to be in a position to hit him. The minecart sections could have been better, I think. Especially in Casino. The boss of Casino being a minecart section, it just took too many attempts. I gave up in my playthrough. My modern playthrough. Some of the movement did not feel super tight in the game. I felt like it was a little too slippery, and the camera was not great. So for me, I think Ukulele has moved down from where I would have originally placed it, and I'm going to put it in B tier. Yoshi's Woolly World is one of the best games I've ever played. I did a 100% playthrough with my wife. I did a 100% playthrough when the game first came out. I did an any percent playthrough when my wife and I first started dating, and then I did a 100% playthrough when any percent with her, and then 100% with her just recently. And every playthrough of this game is amazing. Every single level has new mechanics, and they all are 100% intuitive. Because they're all jump on it or use your tongue or throw something at it. Every single one. And all of them feel different. The couple issues that it has is the loading times between the stages, because you have to exit a stage, then it loads the map, then you go to the next stage, and then you load that map. And then it's kind of like the Mario Galaxy problem with that, except a little better. That takes a little bit too much time. And there's also less levels than Mario Galaxy. And it doesn't feel like you're wasting time by leaving and going back to the same world like Mario Galaxy has. Because this one, you're always going to the next level. I think the co-op mode camera could have been improved. Because sometimes the stages weren't ready for co-op players to be too far apart. And other than those two things, that's the only problems. That's literally the only problems I had with that game. The variety is just too insane, and the intuitiveness of all of the different levels is just amazing. So that's where we're sitting at. We have a top 5 games in the S tier. And I have to pick one of them to be my game of the year. Now, MacBat, I think, is the closest to A tier out of all of these games. Because it was definitely really short, and it didn't have too much outside of the nostalgia hitting you kind of vibes to it. It Takes Two, I think, had too many problems that I discussed before. I don't want to go back into it because I know it's a newer game and people don't want spoilers in the story. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity definitely had a good shot if it had costumes. Yoshi's Woolly World and Super Sammy Roll are both amazing games. And I'm going to put Super Sammy Roll as my game of the year. Only because, well, there's less of a debate because Yoshi's Woolly World came out way before this, and I've played it before. So I knew what I was expecting going into it. And Super Sammy Roll was my new game. And I really, really, really loved it. So yeah, that's my tier list of all the games that I played this year. I'm excited to keep track of all the games I play next year. I played 38 different games this year. I don't know if I'll beat that next year, but we'll see. I had a great time doing this tier list. I always love doing tier lists and talking about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it too. So be sure to leave a follow if you haven't already. And we'll get ready to pack up this stream.